There's one of them things within a mile of us.
Oh, Sensei.
Maybe a little off my game here.
What is it about the sea beast that reminds us so much of How to Train Your Dragon? Let's talk about it. Fans are loving Netflix's The Sea Beast, but it definitely reminded us of something we've seen before. How to Train Your Dragon, anyone? Let's talk about all the ways this animated adventure movie that's all about monsters and hunters becoming friends reminded us of another film of its kind. Number 1. Red and Toothless. The most obvious similarity between The Sea Beast and How to Train Your Dragon has to be the two movies' main monsters. The Sea Beast's main monster, Red, reminds us a lot of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, especially when we see close-ups of those cat-like green eyes. These two beasts actually have very similar super sweet faces. It's really no wonder even a seemingly cold-hearted hunter could fall in love with these two. And speaking of hunters becoming their all-time number one fans, Red and Toothless also play very similar roles in the worlds of their movies. They both inspire their one-time predators to give them a chance and give up on killing for good. And in doing so, they make their worlds better for everyone. It seems like the most unlikely characters of all were the ones who turned out to be the heroes. Number 2. Reformed Hunters. Speaking of heroes, did you happen to notice that both of these movies are all about hunters changing their ways?
No more monster hunting!
Many fans have also pointed out the strangely similar plot lines the movies share. Both movies are all about hunters who become reformed and change their jobs and their outlooks on life after meeting the monsters they've been focused on hunting. It's pretty hard to ignore how similar these movies are when you think about that. Number 3. Beasts as Pets. Both movies follow main characters who end up treating what they previously thought of as monsters like their own pets. Maisie adopts Blue, a very little and very wild sea beast. And Hiccup plays fetch with Toothless, so there's definitely a pretty serious person and pet dynamic here. Who wouldn't want a dragon as a pet? Just look at that little, big face.
Oh, give me a cuddle, Grumpy!
Number 4. Hiccup and Maisie. You know who else seems like soul siblings from different movies? Maisie reminds us a lot of Hiccup. Red and Toothless aren't the only characters who have counterparts in the other movie. Like Maisie, Hiccup comes from a family of hunters. And while at the start of their respective movies both characters are ready to follow in their parents' footsteps, they both quickly come around to the idea that the family business is more cruel than admirable. They're also both willing to change their ways and stand up against others for their beliefs.
They killed hundreds of us!
And we've killed thousands of them!
Number 5. Hiccup and Jacob. Maisie isn't the only character Hiccup has a lot in common with. He's also a lot like Jacob. Despite Hiccup and Maisie's similarities, Hiccup is even more like the sea beast's other main character. Both Hiccup and Jacob believe that slaying beasts is the way to achieve a meaningful life.
Please, 2 minutes. I'll kill a dragon. My life will get infinitely better. I might even get a date.
They're not just hunters by trade. They think hunting is the best way to be a hero. Until they actually get to know their prey, that is. As both of these movies progress, Hiccup and Jacob both learn that they aren't meant to be hunters and that maybe hunting is actually wrong. And of course, they each form a bond with a friendly beast. To be fair, who wouldn't form a bond with these cuties? Number 6. Captive Creatures. There is one scene in each film in particular where Red and Toothless remind us a lot of each other, and they definitely aren't our favorite scenes. There's a scene when Hiccup finds Toothless tied up, and it looks a lot like when the sailors finally get a hold of Red and tie her up in ropes. It's not easy to watch these big sweethearts get trapped, but it makes it even better when they're freed again. Number 7. Stoic and Crow. Another pair of characters that likely reminded you of each other are Stoic the Vast and Captain Crow. Just as How to Train Your Dragon has Chief of the Tribe Stoic the Vast, who's merciless against dragons, the Sea Beast has Captain Crow, who's equally as focused on defeating the Sea Beasts. They also both refer to their respective monsters as devils, which gives us a little insight into just how much they dislike those guys.
Lead us home, devil.
I strike at thee, devil!
And of course, it's definitely not as easy for them to come around and change their ways as some of the other characters. Number 8. Hunting how-to texts. How do you learn how to hunt monsters? With a monster hunting how-to book, of course. Both How to Train Your Dragon and the Sea Beasts have an educational monster hunting text in their worlds. In How to Train Your Dragon, the Dragon Manual teaches the hunters about their prey. And in The Sea Beast, they have a book titled Tales of Captain Crow that they use to learn about the sea beasts.
Our books, our history is a lie.
Number 9. Humans vs. Beasts. Each movie has an action-packed humans vs. beasts scene at the beginning. Early on, both movies have a sequence showing the beasts preying on the hunters to set up the backstory of the relationship between the beasts and the humans around them. Of course, later on, both stories teach us that maybe these beasts aren't as scary as they seem.
They're not what we think they are.
Number 10. Opening parallels. There's another parallel to be found early on in both movies, their opening scenes. While The Sea Beast focuses on beasts of the sea and How to Train Your Dragon focuses on beasts of the sky, both of these movies open with the wild, crashing ocean against the night sky. Number 11. Wide variety of beasts. There isn't just one beast to be found in either of these movies. Rather, both The Sea Beast and How to Train Your Dragon have a wide variety of different kinds of beasts in their respective universes. The hunters who set sail on the inevitable in The Sea Beast run into their fair share of different kinds of sea monsters on their journey. And How to Train Your Dragon has its own wide variety of monsters that can be found in the Dragon Manual. Number 12. Vikings and Sailors. The Vikings from How to Train Your Dragon are very similar to the sailors from The Sea Beast. While Vikings and sailors are of course pretty different, it's difficult to ignore just how much the main characters' shipmates and hunting mates remind us of each other. It seems they're all cut from the same beast-hating cloth in the end. Number 13. Sea monsters. Did you know that both The Sea Beast and How to Train Your Dragon both involve sea monsters? While the majority of the monsters of How to Train Your Dragon are found in the sky, there is a sea monster in the How to Train Your Dragon universe. And it looks very similar to that of the Sea Beast. While the sea dragon, aka Sea Dragonus giganticus, doesn't appear in the films until How to Train Your Dragon 2, this species of dragon is frequently mentioned in the How to Train Your Dragon book series. Number 14. Off-duty hunters. Ever wonder where the hunters go when they're not, well, hunting? We actually get to see a similar scene in both movies that show the hunters in their respective off-duty hangout spots. Sometimes you just need to crack open a cold one after a long day of monster hunting. Monster hunters, they're just like us. Number 15. The Real World with a Twist. Both How to Train Your Dragon and The Sea Beast have their own world that's a lot like the real world, but with a twist. How to Train Your Dragon follows a Viking village with dragons lurking around, and The Sea Beast follows a hunting ship with sea beasts occupying the waters. Both movies are somewhat period pieces that work in a kind of realism, with the exception, of course, of their titular mythical creatures. Wait, dragons aren't real, right?
Maybe one of these will help. Whoa!
All eyes are on Luck, the first film from Skydance Animation. Since Skydance is run by John Lasseter, the disgraced former head of Pixar, so many people are curious how Luck stacks up to Pixar films. We've got all the things Luck borrowed from other Pixar movies, so let's get into it.
Come on.
Number 1. Lightyear. Lightyear is Pixar's latest film, and it has something pretty big in common with Luck.
What?
Like Sam, Buzz Lightyear also has a cat companion, Sox. And of course, Sam has Bob. Sure, Sox is a robot and Bob is more of a leprechaun. Still, two cats supporting a human through their journey and talking to them the whole way? Yeah, we think Sox and Bob have a lot in common, and we really wish we had a cat buddy like them too. Number 2. Inside Out. The Land of Luck and the Land of Bad Luck look very familiar to us. Perhaps the designs for these worlds were borrowed from somewhere. Ah yes, we think they look suspiciously like Riley's mind from Inside Out. The architecture of these places is very similar, and borrowing the look of your movie's world from another popular movie's world is definitely a recipe for success. The Land of Luck has oval screens that look a lot like the oval screens in Inside Out's Island of Core Memories. And the keyboard and control panels in both movies have layouts that look a lot alike. The two places even share a similar shade of purple for most of their decor. And think about it, it kinda sounds like the makers of Luck were even inspired by the name. Island of Core Memories, Land of Luck, very coincidental. Number 3. The Incredibles end credits. We rarely look forward to the end credits of a film.
We do. We do?
Yet for Pixar, we know we're never in for a black screen with a bunch of words. When it comes to Pixar movies, end credits are just as important as the rest of the film. If you pay close attention, you'll realize that Luck was borrowed from Pixar right down to its last seconds. Luck uses 2D animation to show what just happened in the film during the end credits, just like The Incredibles does. Number 4. Andy's Room. Talk about nostalgia. Luck's Home for Girls reminds us a lot of a home for a certain boy. This room looks a lot like Andy's room from Toy Story, and we think there's really no cozier, more comforting place to model a kid's room after. Number 5. Monsters, Inc. Of all the movies Luck seems to be paying homage to, most of all this movie has a lot in common with Monsters, Inc.
Is that a joke? Tell me you're joking.
No.
Both movies have a fantasy world that houses beings whose job it is to prop up an unexplained legend in the real human world. And a human just so happens to find themselves in that world. And on an even more specific note, both worlds also have hazmat crews that are very intimidating to the residents of that world. Number 6. A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life fans may have noticed a tiny detail in this movie that reminds us of a certain beloved bug. We can probably all agree that it's pretty surprising when Bob opens his mouth for the first time.
You did what? You flushed my panty down the toilet!
Why? Because we're conditioned to expect cats in cartoons to have cute, little, high-pitched voices. Instead, this cute little cat has a very adult male voice.
What kind of a crazy talking cat are you?
A lucky Scottish one, obviously.
It's pretty funny to hear this voice come out of a cat this cute, but we've actually seen a very similar joke before. This joke is reminiscent of Francis in A Bug's Life, who has an unexpected voice per our expectations of his ladybug form.
So, being a ladybug automatically makes me a girl. Is that it, Flyboy?
We love a little reminder that we should never judge a book, or a bug, or a little black cat by its cover. Number 7. Talking Animals. In this movie, Bob the cat can talk. While speaking English is definitely not a trait of any real cat, it's a trait of plenty of Pixar animals. From A Bug's Life to Finding Nemo, Pixar is definitely known for movies with animals who can speak. We think Bob would fit right in with our favorite talking animals. Number 8. The Pixar Woman Face. Of all the things in Luck that we've seen before, Sam's face in particular rings a bell. You might think this sounds crazy, but Sam's face has basically been featured in all our favorite Pixar flicks. She has giant eyes and a tiny mouth, but which Pixar character does this remind us of? It's essentially every single female character in Pixar. Folks on the internet refer to this strange trend as same face syndrome, and no matter which Pixar lady you look at, you're probably going to see that same face. And let's just say it's not exactly all that human looking. Seriously, who actually has eyes that big other than Pixar characters? The answer is Sam from Luck. And that's about it. Number 9. Specific color schemes. Pixar is known for its super specific color schemes that vary from movie to movie and sometimes even scene to scene. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that Luck definitely follows this trend. For example, everything fits the green color scheme in Sam's workplace, and this notoriously lucky color is actually present throughout the movie. You may never have noticed the way Pixar uses color before, but once you notice it, you really can't unsee it. If you have an eagle eye, you'll take note of just how often and specifically Pixar uses color to change our moods and reflect the story in ways other films don't, and Luck is certainly following suit. Number 10. Supernatural in the real world. Luck is chock full of supernatural elements that occur in an otherwise fairly naturalistic real world. This is commonplace in Pixar films, from talking toys in Toy Story to talking cars in Cars to superheroes who live in the real world in The Incredibles. Luck follows this trend with leprechauns in a world with real people. And leprechauns don't exist in our real world, right? Number 11. Self-referential moments. Pixar is very well known for its self-referential moments, aka Easter eggs, where it makes nods to its previous films in all of its movies. And while the Skydance production company is a bit too new to have enough content to do exactly what Pixar does just yet, they still make small references to their brand, like Hazel's space shirt for example. This looks just like Skydance's super cool space-centric logo screen. Skydance is certainly working with what it's got, and we have a feeling based on this that there will be plenty of Skydance Easter eggs to be found in future films. Number 12. The Pixar Formula. While Pixar movies' stories all feel very different for most of us, there actually is such a thing as the Pixar storytelling formula that its movies always follow. And Luck just so happens to follow this to a T as well. According to the Pixar formula, Pixar movies take the following steps. First, the main character wants something and goes after it. Then something, or frequently someone, keeps the main character going as they continue on their mission. Lastly, the main character undergoes a character arc that helps them to become better and ultimately get the thing that they set out to get. When you heard those steps, you probably noticed that Luck absolutely follows the Pixar formula, and there's really no better way to borrow from Pixar than that. Number 13. Emotional core. Not every animated movie needs to have a heavy emotional core, yet from Toy Story to Inside Out to Soul, we know all too well that Pixar pretty much always does. and they're never afraid to make us get just a little choked up. Since Luck focuses on a woman who's just aged out of foster care, never having been adopted, Luck definitely follows in Pixar's footsteps in this way. Number 14. Animation style. Probably one of the first similarities you noticed between Luck and Pixar movies is the animation style. The look of Luck's 3D animation is definitely not new to us. In fact, we think you could place the characters in Luck into most Pixar films and they'd fit perfectly. From details as specific as the hairs on characters' heads to broader aesthetic choices like the look of buildings or the way the sunlight hits the outside world, the animators of Luck were clearly Pixar fans and they definitely weren't afraid to show it. Number 15. Advanced tech. Luck has its own advanced made-up technology, or at least the Land of Luck does. There are plenty of Pixar films that have their own made-up technology as well. From Monsters, Inc. to WALL-E, Pixar has come up with so many inventions that we wish were real. And some of the stuff in the Land of Luck isn't too shabby either. Did you notice all of these similarities between Luck and Pixar? What did you think of the movie overall? Did it stack up to Pixar films? Let's talk about it in the comments.
I'm the king of the underworld, yeah, it's great to be me.
The Cuphead Show is known for paying homage to 1930s animation. And Disney certainly has tons of famous retro animations that Cuphead homaged. And we're here to tell you about them. Number 1. Demon off the starboard bow. Our cup-based heroes in the Cuphead Show have to face their familiar foe from the games, Cala Maria. While she sounds beautiful, wow, she could use a bit of an attitude adjustment. Much like another troublesome sea lady, Ursula from The Little Mermaid. In a very similar shot, our heroes face both characters who tower over them while at sea. We don't know who'd be worse to face.
We gotta get out of here, Bridie! Let's go!
Number 2. Stop bugging out, man. In the Cuphead Show, Mugman has a big scare when he mistakes some well-placed fireflies for scary monster eyes. But he's not the only lovable animated character in history to be spooked in a scary forest by something non-threatening.
Whoa! That was an owl!
The scene and shot is nearly identical to the scene from Disney's 1937 animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where she has a nearly identical scare, though this time the eyes are real, but they belong to an equally harmless owl. Without passing judgment, we think we'd be pretty scared too. Number 3. From Disney to a big meme to the Cuphead Show. In the Cuphead Show episode Ghosts Ain't Real, the Cuppy duo meet a group of dancing skeletons while being stalked and spooked by a bunch of ghosts. Internet-savvy folks will immediately think of the internet meme with the old-styled animated dancing skeletons, but many folks may not realize this meme actually uses footage from the classic Disney animated short, The Skeleton Dance. There is no doubt the prominence of the meme itself had a part to play in the Cuphead Show incorporating the scene, as the show does seem to aim for faces and moments that become memeable. Number 4, and you thought your friends were skinny. In episode 5 of the first season of the Cuphead Show, King Dice's musicians include a group of card-based characters churning out some hits. For fans of Disney's classic Alice in Wonderland, these cards will look very familiar. The old Disney film from 1951 has very similar looking card people. However, in this instance, they act as the underlings for a queen rather than a king. The Queen of Hearts, to be exact. She has her imposing card soldiers intimidate and arrest young, innocent Alice. So we certainly prefer the card people from the Cuphead Show. Number 5. Once you see the pants, everything falls into place. Cuphead, since his inception, has always meant to be an ode to the big mouse himself, Mickey Mouse. While many of his features are common to many classic-style cartoon characters, his features most resemble the famous mouse, including his black body, his red pants, brown round shoes, glove design, skinny arms and legs, and of course, on occasion, some very similar attitude and facial expressions. Now, one you would keep as a pet and the other you use to drink from, but otherwise they're almost the same, no? Number 6. Remember kids, magic is all about the hands, or at least that's what these animated shows believe. In episode 9 of the Cuphead Show, the devil agrees to paint Elder Kettle's fence if Cuphead takes off the sweater, preventing him from taking his soul.
Is that so?
The devil does nothing without a little flair, of course, and shows the boys how a magical being gets the job done. His technique here is key for noticing this next Disney imitation, as Mickey Mouse from The Sorcerer's Apprentice controlled some broomsticks with the exact same open hand rising techniques and form the devil uses. The paintbrushes the devil uses even look similar to the brooms from that classic Disney animation. Never thought there was this much overlap between paintbrushes and brooms, but here we are.
That is how you paint a fence!
Number 7. Ghosts just gotta haunt, don't they?
Well, I know what we're doing tonight.
In episode 6 of the Cuphead Show, Cuphead and Mugman are beset upon by a group of ghostly ghouls after insisting they cannot be scared. They are not the first animated group of likable characters to be chased by ghosts that look like this, however, as Mickey, Goofy, and Donald Duck are annoyed and stalked by ghosts with a nearly identical design. The red nose on each ghost is a dead giveaway that this episode and ghost design was an ode to the 1937 Disney classic Lonesome Ghosts. Cuphead and Mugman keep their finger guns holstered, however, while Mickey chose a different approach. Number 8. Some folks are Mickey Mouse people, and some folks are Oswald the Rabbit enjoyers. While Cuphead is meant to resemble the more famous Mickey Mouse, Mugman, by contrast, is meant to resemble another Disney character with a long history, Oswald the Rabbit. Oswald actually predates Mickey Mouse, but over the years, Mickey took over as Disney's mascot, while Oswald fell from favor. Seen side by side, it's easy to spot how the Cup coupling is meant to be an ode to Mickey and Oswald and their somewhat newer friendship with each other. Though the Cup Bros definitely have more sinister intentions than their kinder inspiration.
It dies!
Number 9. Card people, Cupheads, and now Saxofolks. The Cuphead Show features some saxophone-based folks who unfortunately suffer through Cuphead's antics in the opening of the show. But sax people have a long history in animation, dating back all the way to Disney's Silly Symphonies cartoon over 80 years ago in an animation called Musicland, where two lovers from different worlds attempt to make it work despite their parents' war. Now, though sax people were more prone to violence, hopefully Cuphead didn't invoke this history of wrath after his and Mugman's stunt. Number 10. All things considered, there's not that much to laugh about.
Not funny, Cuphead. Uh-huh.
In episode 6 of the first season of the Cuphead Show, Mugman has a moment of laughing to himself against a log as he realizes he was scared for nothing.
You know, it's actually kind of peaceful out here.
Which turns out not to be the case, as he was about to be haunted. The setting, scene, and beats are almost exactly the same as Hickabob's in the Disney classic The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Hickabob is similarly leaning against a log, laugh happy before his worst nightmare appears, the Headless Horseman. I think the two characters would also get along since they have a very similar disposition. Number 11. Add phone people to our never-ending list of object-turned-humans.
Hello.
This character from the Cuphead Show is styled after an older version of the telephone. And they might be a grandchild of the telephone person from Disney's classic Through the Mirror. Not only do both characters use the same type of telephone to form a character, but their design is also very similar. We never get to see the Disney version play skee-ball at a carnival, but now we sort of know what it would look like. Number 12. You might not be super big on labels, but older animations sure are. Title cards were a big deal back in the day, not just for animation, but for a lot of retro films and television shows. The Cuphead Show didn't miss a beat by having their episodes introduced the old-fashioned way. In particular, you can see how similar the Season 2 Episode 4 title card, Another Brother, was to Disney's No Service title card starring Mickey Mouse. Those were some of the Cuphead Show's biggest Disney moments. Any you noticed that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments below.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. I've got an AWOL Space Ranger.
It's getting pretty hard to tell the difference between a Disney animated film and a Pixar one these days. So we're taking a look at the times they were copying each other's movies, and a few times they recycled their own ideas.
Everything okay? Everything is great. She's just excited.
Would you rather be a red panda or a sea monster? We're starting off with two Pixar comparisons, Turning Red and Luca. They're basically the same movie. Change our minds. Turning Red and Luca both had a ton of overlap in their development periods. so it's hard to say who was copying who. But these movies definitely have more than a few similarities, and it's kind of uncanny. From overprotective and controlling mothers to May and Luca both changing forms and even sharing a similar style nose, there's a lot that tie these two movies together. The fathers in the movies don't tend to speak a whole lot, but when they do, they're the first to accept the kids for who they are and don't try to change them.
People have all kinds of sides to them, May.
And let's not forget the overarching plot of our friends trying to raise money. Miriam and Julia rock a similar style with those curly orange locks, that beanie, and personality. We can't forget to include the strange aunts and uncle.
Good thing you sent for me when you did, yeah?
Popping up to protect the protagonists from themselves.
Your family is here now, Meme, and we will take care of everything.
We have a conspiracy theory.
You do know no one ever listens to those.
I know that.
Just from looking at Pixar's Lightyear trailer, we could spot a few similarities between it and both Disney's Meet the Robinsons and Big Hero 6.
What?
Maybe it's just a coincidence that our characters Buzz and Louis get trapped in a future with the children of their future family and friends. A future that's littered with creepy robots with red glowing eyes. Or maybe we all have a collective imagination of what the future could look like thanks to years of unoriginal media, and the color red representing evil. Either way, Disney and Pixar are drawing from the same sources, but the biggest similarity we found was between Socks and Baymax.
Hello, Buzz. I am Socks, your personal companion robot.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion.
You can't tell us they aren't the same character, but we're not mad about it.
Hairy baby.
Flower, gleam, and glow. Let your power shine. Looking at Disney's Encanto, if you replaced Isabella's vines with hair, you would get Rapunzel from Tangled. We're pretty certain Isabella's character is either meant to reference Rapunzel at the bare minimum, or to parody her. Had they have not completely changed Isabella's character arc, the stories would be much more similar too. In a cutscene from Encanto, you can see Isabella escaping from her room to run away and meet up with her lover, much like Rapunzel propels down the walls of her tower. And we can't put it past you that both are dressed in purple dresses. Oh, also, Isabella is always swinging herself around Casita, much like Rapunzel does in the tower. Now, Encanto and Moana, on the other hand, do share a lot, including the same creative team and Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the score for both. The premise of both movies is the same. Mirabel and Moana set out on a journey to save their homes from destruction by restoring the magic. But obviously, the big difference is Moana must venture far from home, while Mirabel doesn't ever go all that far from hers.
Where are we going?
Home. All underwater stories are bound to have some overlap. If Turning Red was a ripoff of Luca, and Luca was a ripoff of The Little Mermaid, then Turning Red and The Little Mermaid are also both the same story, right? Well, not exactly. The parts Luca borrowed from The Little Mermaid relate much more to the fish-out-of-water aspects of the story. We're going to take a deep breath and dive into the similarities.
Hey, relax. Breathe.
The surface is dangerous to sea life, the boats are mysterious, the protagonists collect human trinkets, their first attempts at walking are wobbly, their sidekicks claim to be experts, and nobody knows how to use a fork. But hey, at least Ariel gets to sleep in a bed. Even King Triton and Luca's mom have been super overprotective, sharing the same regrets and nearly the same line.
Do you think I was too hard on her?
Was I too hard on him?
Instead of a cool water dragon, let's make Sisu a weirdo. It worked for Mushu. There are a ton of similarities between Raya and the Last Dragon and other Disney and Pixar movies. Just to start with, Raya's sword is very similar to Mulan's. Of course, the inspiration for the dragons comes from a similar place, but whose idea was it to make both Sisu and Mushu quirky weird sidekicks instead of cool and mysterious? Now, how do Raya and Moana compare? Their journey of restoring the magic to their homes, of course. Between Raya, Moana, and Encanto, we're starting to notice a trend. And you might find our last comparison a little bit weird, but we wanted to include it anyway. Raya totally took inspiration from The Incredibles. The movies share one similar element: troublemaking babies with special abilities.
A con baby?
A baby is an unlikely companion in an action-adventure movie. While Little Noi eventually teams up with Raya, Jack's set on antagonizing the raccoon in the backyard. We've got a perfectly good horse right here. No need to make another one. At the end of Into the Unknown, Elsa casts a spell that fills the sky with ice runes. Despite the cool color palette, we couldn't help but be reminded of the Lantern Festival from Tangled, where Rapunzel and Flynn are sitting in a boat singing, "I See the Light." And not only that, but the horses in Frozen look a lot like Maximus, don't they? Is there any chance that Hans's horse and Anna's are Maximus with a different coat? Who would you pick in a fight, Baymax or Mr. Incredible?
Showtime.
To not be able to see the similarities between Disney's Big Hero 6 and Pixar's The Incredibles is to be intentionally ignoring them. With a movie as perfect as The Incredibles, we can't blame the creative team of Big Hero 6 for ripping off the super tight costume gag. Disney's We Hope We Don't Wreck the movie for you. Disney's Wreck-It Ralph borrowed from Pixar's Monsters, Inc. for their unlikely team-up. Ralph has just been doing his job wrecking stuff for 30 years and minding his own business. Sully is the pride of his work, Monsters, Inc., roaring at children. Then along comes the cutesy little glitch Vanellope von Schweetz from another world.
I made it for you.
And a little girl from the human world, Boo. And these characters somehow weasel their way into the scary hearts of our favorite brutish characters.
Well, you almost blew up the whole mountain.
Right. That's a good note.
Sequels just can't be original. It's literally impossible. Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Pixar's Toy Story are the same story. Just as Woody is afraid of being replaced by Buzz Lightyear, the entire arcade is under threat of being replaced by shiny new equipment. And both franchises also have deceptive villain plotlines, with King Candy and Lotso the Purple Bear.
Beyond the halitosis you so obviously suffer from.
Andy, we'd like you to say hello to the Robinsons. Disney's Meet the Robinsons borrowed a quirky little joke from Pixar's Toy Story 2, which then became a huge meme. Both showcase a T-Rex's tiny arms, struggling to help them accomplish their goals.
I can't press the fire button and jump at the same time!
It's the circle of movies. Pixar's The Good Dinosaur is really just a rehash of The Lion King. The fathers take their sons for a midnight stroll through a field as a bonding moment for both. And then both fathers tragically fall to their demise while their sons look on. Arlo and Simba feel guilty about their father's passing, and then find themselves in strange territory, needing to get home. And this is where the Ice Age plot kicks in. Yes, we feel a little silly bringing in Ice Age, but did you hear? Blue Sky Studios was bought by Disney. Ice Age is a Disney franchise now. Arlo takes care of the lost child, Spot, and Manny the Mammoth returns the baby to her family. Number 12. Another water movie. You know what that means. Similar story elements exist between Pixar's Finding Nemo and Disney's The Little Mermaid. No, that does not make Turning Red similar to Finding Nemo just because Luca is similar to The Little Mermaid. Although, Darla and May are pretty similar in terms of hair color and annoyingness, but the comparisons end there. The shark chase scene in Finding Nemo feels like it borrows from The Little Mermaid. Ariel is swimming away with her thingamabobs in hand, but drops them to save Flounder. Marlin and Dory get the swimming goggles stuck in the shark's teeth, but the one moment that really cries rip-off to us is Bruce's fin breaking open the grates in the ship compared to the shark in The Little Mermaid chomping through the floorboards. This is the last time Monsters, Inc. will appear on this list, promise. Have you ever noticed that Sully has a similar design to the Beast from Beauty and the Beast? Really? You don't see it? The hunched shoulders, the fur, the horns, the thick eyebrows, the nose, oh, and the roar. Can't you just picture Lilo and Wally being BFFs? Yes, Wally reminds us a bit of Lilo and Stitch. We just can't shake it. Aliens come to the beautiful Hawaiian island of Kauai and run into eccentric tourists. Humans go to space and live life like they're on vacation among some broken robots. Robots that are reminiscent of Stitch's cousins, like Stop, Go, and Splat. Brother Bear and Tarzan have more than Phil Collins in common, and it feels like Brother Bear is kind of a cheap ripoff. Tarzan and Kenai are stuck between two worlds. They have to decide if they want to be part of the human world or embrace being part of the animal kingdom instead. And they both choose animals over people. But at least Tarzan gets a girlfriend out of the deal. Two worlds, one family. Kenai has to wait for the terrible sequel for a girlfriend. Okay, so it's hard to say whether some of these are the studios copying each other or if they just happen to have similar ideas. No story is truly original, and animated movies aimed at children recycle like 3 plots, so there's bound to be a ton of overlap. Are you surprised by some of these similarities, or do you think it's totally by coincidence? Let us...
Not now, soldier.
When you hear the name of a big-budget studio like Disney, you probably wouldn't think they take shortcuts. But what if that wasn't true at all? When it comes to animation, shortcuts have been made throughout the entirety of the studio's history. You'll be shocked at just how many animated Disney films copied animation from one another. Number 1. Pulling out hair.
Want to bet? Boo! Oh!
On the surface, The Princess and the Frog and The Sword and the Stone don't really have much in common. But if we take this scene of Lewis and this scene of Madame Mim and put them side by side, you'll think otherwise. The animation of Madame Mim pulling out her hair is the same animation as Lewis. The only difference is, he doesn't have any hair. Princess and the Frog is actually the most recent Disney film to have copied animation. This is because most Disney films nowadays use computerized animation instead. Think Frozen and Moana.
What? Hey, whoa!
Copied animation was used frequently in older films because it saved time and money. But with new tech and a high-budget movie studio, there isn't a need for it anymore, besides maybe for nostalgia purposes. Number 2. Copying fueled by nostalgia.
Not so long as I'm around.
Well, in that case, you're fired.
When The Lion King live action was announced, the world buzzed about its star-studded cast. Beyoncé, Seth Rogen, Donald Glover.
And this is one of those instances.
That wasn't my thing. You told me about the line.
What more could a Disney fan ask for? Well, the studio really said Hakuna Matata and gave us a nostalgia-filled live action equipped with identical animations to the original film. Now you may be thinking, the new film uses computerized animation, what was the need for copying animation? The most probable answer is nostalgia. Nostalgia sells and Disney knows it.
Whoa, nice one, Simba. Thanks.
Number 3. Buzz's meaningful reflection.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command.
Have you ever noticed that Buzz Lightyear's first scenes in Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 are eerily similar? The scenes both feature the animation of Buzz's reflection in his helmet. While this was probably more of a creative decision rather than a decision made to reduce the budget, it just goes to show how much copying animation can come in handy.
But there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Number 4. They could basically be twins.
Here's the deal.
What's the saying? Like mother, like daughter? That's especially true for Princess Ariel and her daughter Melody. They look almost identical besides Melody having her father's hair color and eyes. However, the similarities don't stop there. If we compare this scene of Ariel swimming to the one of her daughter in part 2, it's easy to recognize that the animation in the two scenes is also identical. Like Toy Story, this totally could have been done as a creative choice. Or maybe having mermaid animation stocked away somewhere was too tempting for animators to resist.
It's just my collection.
Number 5. A not-so-unique ballroom dance. It's a tale as old as time, at least in the world of Disney. Princess meets prince, they fall in love, and then they have an epic ballroom dance scene that'll go down in history.
L'amour.
Well, because the older Disney princess films tended to follow the same story arc, it meant that shared animation between the films wasn't uncommon. For instance, the ballroom dance scenes in both Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. The animation of the pair's dance steps is exactly the same. Number 6. Cat Chase. What do Cinderella and 101 Dalmatians have in common? On the surface, not much, but a side-by-side comparison of the films would prove otherwise. This chase scene from Cinderella where the cat Lucifer gets scared by Bruno has the same animation as Sergeant Tibbs getting scared by Jasper. Look at the way both Lucifer and Sergeant Tibbs jump and react before running away. Number 7. The fish just keep swimming.
One side, sister.
These two underwater scenes in the original Pinocchio and the original Alice in Wonderland couldn't be more different context-wise. In Pinocchio, we're moving alongside a creepy octopus in what appears to be a dark part of the sea, while the Alice in Wonderland scene is more playful and light as we follow a top-hatted man. But if we divert our attention to the fish in this scene, you'll notice that almost all the animation has been replicated apart from their differing backdrops. Number 8. The Adventure of Christopher and Mowgli. Winnie the Pooh and the Jungle Book don't necessarily have similar storylines, although they're both centered around a boy who is friends with animals. In Christopher Robin's case, stuffed animals. But the similarities between Christopher Robin and Mowgli run deeper than just their love for animals. In these two scenes, the animation of Christopher Robin and Mowgli exploring and climbing rocks are identical. Even the way they stumble is the same. Number 9. Bird bathing.
Those are birds.
Bambi and Alice in Wonderland couldn't be any more different.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
One film is about a baby deer who loses his parents and is forced to encounter his fears and make a new family with his forest friends. And the other is about a young girl who falls down a rabbit hole, literally, and into a fantasy world filled with fantastical creatures and adventures. But one thing they have in common? These two scenes of a bird taking a bath. While the ponds are a little different, the color and animation of the bird are the same. Number 10. Water under the bridge. Who knew that this scene of Grumpy getting annoyed and getting, well, grumpy could have so much relevance later on? Almost 30 years after Snow White was released, Disney reused the animation of the scene to create this one of Bagheera hitting his head in the Jungle Book.
Oh, that does it.
Besides the characters looking nothing alike, the animation is definitely reused. Number 11. Dogs in all their forms. Wolves are just big dogs, and nothing proves it better than these two scenes from 101 Dalmatians and The Jungle Book. In 1961, 101 Dalmatians gave us these adorable puppy scenes that are still cute today. Then a few years later, The Jungle Book introduced this pack of wolf pups, who happen to act suspiciously similar to the Dalmatians. If you pay attention to their movements and the wagging of their tails, you'll see that this is another case of Disney reusing animation.
I'm not sleepy. I'm hungry.
Number 12. They could be identical.
You're thinking about somebody with long eyelashes.
It seems like the creators of Robin Hood really took a liking to how The Jungle Book portrayed Baloo's movement. So much so that they went ahead and copied a lot of animation from the film, especially when it came to Little John. Given that they're both bears, it seems only natural that they would take a shortcut like this. In the end, the two characters ended up with a lot of the same mannerisms. Number 13. Elephant trunks galore. The similarities between Robin Hood and The Jungle Book don't stop there. It seems like they didn't only take reference when it came to animating Little John.
You know something, Robin? You're taking too many chances.
The elephants in both films move exactly the same. And why wouldn't they reuse animation for this scene? It is the logical thing to do. Number 14. Princess or Maiden. Being one of the first iconic Disney and princess movies to ever exist, it's only natural that going forward, creators of different Disney films would want to take reference from it. And there are plenty of ways we can see that reflected. One being spotting repetitive animation in other films, like this scene of Snow White compared to this one of Robin Hood's Maid Marian. The animations of the two women dancing are the same. Number 15. Like cat, like dog. Here's yet another example involving 101 Dalmatians, but this time it's being compared to the Aristocats.
Come on, cats. We gotta split.
In these two scenes, Thomas O'Malley and Sergeant Tibbs have the same animation. The only difference is there aren't a whole bunch of puppies hiding behind Thomas O'Malley. Which copied animation was the most shocking to you? Have you picked up on any other scenes that share the same animation? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching The Things Animated.